Alright, I'm going to move through things pretty quick here as we talk about this. And I'm going to make some assumptions that there's things that either you already know or you can kind of research on your own. So this is called a staff. This is what we use to put musical notes on. These are called bars. This is what we put the notes within, and that space within is called a measure. This is called a time signature. Now this is important. The top number in a time signature shows how many beats are in each measure. The bottom number signifies the type of beats that are within that measure. So 4/4 would mean that there are 4 quarter notes within a measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. In a time signature like 3/4, it would mean that there's only room for 3 quarter notes within a measure. So our different notes, we have whole notes, half notes, quarter notes, eighth notes, 16th notes. They're all divisions of the whole note. So if a whole note is 4 beats, 1, 2, 3, 4, a half note would be half of that. 1, 2, 3, 4. A quarter note would be divided into 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. An eighth note would be again dividing that into half. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And the 16th note would be dividing that into half. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so on and so forth. We also have dotted notes, something else we're not really going to get into here, but that's a note plus a division of the next note. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, now we have our clefs. Here's a treble clef, that's what we're going to be using as guitarist, and then this is a bass clef. A clef signifies the name of the notes as they appear on the staff. Another way of putting that, the clef is going to be the symbol that lets us know what sections of a staff are assigned to what note. So in a treble clef, if we look at the staff, the white spaces are going to go F, A, C, and E. Face, an easy way to remember that. The lines of the staff themselves are going to be E, G, B, D, and F. Bunch of different ways to remember that. Every good boy does fine was what I was taught, but come up with your own mnemonic device for that, see what helps you remember. So if we notice the different notes that we just used, face and every good boy does fine, the only letters that we have are A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then it repeats again. So in total we only have 7 letters that we're using. A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Now what's important to note is the difference between intervals. So the distance between A and B is going to be a whole step. Where this is important is on the neck of the guitar. My note A is going to be, for reference right now, on the 5th fret of the E string. Each fret equals 1/2 step. But to get to B, it's a full step. So I'm going to skip the next fret, and I'm going to use my 3rd finger on the 7th fret to get to B. What we notice is that there's that space that's in between the A and the B. So that space is for a note that's referred to as either a sharp. A sharp moves up, or flat. B can be flatted and moved down. A sharp and B flat is the same note. Alright, so is all that making sense? Cool. We're going to confuse things a little bit. We know that this space in between notes is a whole step. G to A covers the distance of 3 frets. A to B covers the distance of 3 frets. Except between B to C is 1/2 step always. And E to F is always 1/2 step. So B to C and E to F are always 1/2 step. So here's how it looks. We have A, 1 fret higher would be A sharp or B flat. 1 fret higher would be B. Now remember, there's no B sharp that we're discussing here, so it's just going to go right to C. Now C to D will be the distance of 3 frets again. D to E will be the distance of 3 frets. Now remember, E to F is 1/2 step. F to G, 3 frets. And then repeating back, G to A. So let's look at that again. G to A, distance of 3 frets. A to B, distance of 3 frets. B to C, 1 fret right next to each other. B to C, or C to D, distance of 3 frets. D to E, distance of 3 frets. E to F, right next to each other, next fret up. F to G, distance of 3 frets. G to A. Okay, so what are we learning here? Again, the theory that we're teaching is really just stuff as we apply it to the guitar. So everything we're talking about right now is just to tailor things to a learning point for the guitar, for getting around the neck of the guitar, for becoming more proficient on the guitar. Not really getting into deep musical theory here at all. The reason that we're learning this, and the reason that I related everything back to the frets here, is because we want to be able to identify what the names of our frets are. So let's take everything that we just discussed and let's look at the fretboard itself. And we're just going to look at the E string and the A string. The E is our open string. F we know is 1/2 step higher. So it's going to be the first fret. G is going to be a whole step higher. So 2 frets higher there. 2 frets higher will be A. 2 frets higher will be B. B to C is a 1/2 step. C to D, 2 frets higher. Then when we get all the way up to the 12th fret, everything repeats, so we're back to E again. That's the truth across all the strings. When we get to the 12th fret, everything repeats. So here's all of our open strings. On the 12th fret, they all repeat again. Let's look at the A string. A, 2 frets higher to get to B. B to C is a 1/2 step, so it's the very next fret. C to D, 2 frets higher. D to E, 2 frets higher. E to F is a 1/2 step, very next fret. F to G, 2 frets higher. G to A, 2 steps higher. Alright, so here's why that matters. When we're talking about chords or even keys, the two biggest reference points that we use on the guitar are going to be our E string and our A string. We already saw this when we were talking about power chords. We didn't name the power chords, but we did just talk about the E string as being our root with our first finger, or the A string being the root with our first finger. But now we need to start giving them names so that we can communicate with other musicians. So we need to be able to figure out where we're at. If I were to say, hey, I want you to play an A power chord with the root on the E string, where would you play that? E, F, G, A. So on the 5th fret of the E string. What if I were to say I want you to play a C power chord with the root on the A string? A, B, C. So 3rd fret. Same applies for our scales. So if I were to say I want you to play a pentatonic scale, our regular pentatonic scale, and I'd like you to play a C pentatonic scale starting on the E string, where would that be? E, F, G, A, B, C. 8th fret. It's going to be really important to learn the names of those notes.